Iran's protest crisis has sparked one of the deadliest waves of unrest in decades, but there's a sharp disagreement over how many have died. Officials and activists are clashing over the numbers, raising serious questions about transparency, repression, and human rights. The recent anti-government protests in Iran have drawn international attention not only for the scale of public dissent, but also for the staggering number of deaths reported and the growing dispute over how many lives have been lost. According to official Iranian figures released in late January, the death toll from the recent nationwide protests stands at 3,117 people, a number announced by state media and authorities after weeks of violence and unrest. Within this figure, 2,427 individuals were described as martyrs, including civilians and members of security forces, while authorities categorized the remaining fatalities as terrorists and rioters. Iranian officials also blamed external forces and foreign influence for fueling the unrest. But activists and human rights groups offer a starkly different picture. United States-based monitoring organizations such as the Human Rights Activist News Agency, RHRAN, reported that at least 3,919 deaths have been verified amid the crackdown, with thousands more feared dead behind restricted access, communication blackouts, and limited independent reporting inside the country. Other human rights organizations and journalists inside Iran suggest the real toll could be significantly higher still, with some hospital physicians and expatriate professionals positing estimates into the tens of thousands, far above both the government's official count and lower activist figures. These estimates remain extremely difficult to verify independently due to the country's near-total internet blackout during the height of the violence and the regime's tight control of information. The disagreement over the death toll reflects deeper tensions over how the crisis is interpreted. The Iranian government, facing one of the largest protest movements since the 1979 revolution, has painted the unrest as terrorist incidents driven by foreign powers, dismissing many deaths as casualties of violent riots and external interference. Officials have used language framing security forces as maintaining order against armed rioters and have pulled out all stops to suppress demonstrations. By contrast, activists and rights groups argue that the overwhelming majority of casualties occurred among unarmed civilians demanding basic rights, economic relief, and political reform. Reports from families, witnesses, and some medical workers describe civilians shot by security forces, including reported cases where bystanders, not actively protesting, were killed. The internet blackout, imposed by authorities at the peak of the unrest, has made it even harder to independently document and verify casualties. With communication cut off for days, images and videos that did emerge were often relayed through limited satellite connections or smuggled out by those risking arrest to share the reality on the ground with the world. International human rights organizations have condemned the heavy use of force and demanded transparent, independent investigations into all deaths. These groups say that without open access to hospitals, morgues, and evidence, the true scope of casualties may never be known, and the government's lower figures should be treated with skepticism. Despite the differences in reported numbers, both sides agree on one thing: the violence has been unprecedented in modern Iranian history. Rights observers call this crackdown one of the worst since the Iranian Revolution, and the disparity in death toll figures, from official statements to independent estimates, has become a key flashpoint in international debates over accountability and human rights in Iran. Beyond the death toll itself, the clash over numbers is symbolic of a larger struggle over narrative and legitimacy. The government's narrative seeks to control the story and frame the unrest as a foreign-linked security issue, while activists and dissidents frame it as a genuine grassroots movement, demanding freedom and basic economic justice. While officials say their figures show restraint and defensive action, human rights groups lament that the security response was indiscriminate and brutal, targeting not only demonstrators but also bystanders and neighborhoods that did not pose a direct threat. The international community has taken note as governments and organizations around the world have called for independent investigations, condemned the use of excessive force, and urged protection of civilians. The discrepancy between government and activist death toll estimates continues to fuel calls for transparency and accountability. As Iran confronts this deep crisis, the battle for the truth now plays out not just on the streets, but in newsrooms, diplomatic channels, and human rights forums. In summary, the true death toll of Iran's protest movement remains contested, but the human cost is undeniably severe. Government figures, activist estimates, and independent reports all paint a picture of widespread loss and tragedy. The clash over these numbers and what they represent reflects a larger struggle for truth, justice, and accountability in a nation facing profound upheaval. Stay informed because understanding both the facts and the narrative behind them is key to grasping the full impact of this historic moment.